So our first throw with the stock run of the time-lapse. We have two of them. We have this beautiful red and blue one and this lovely orange and pink one. We're gonna be throwing them against our DD3s. These are the current distance drivers that I bag. The Swirly S-Line is my more neutral bomber, and then the Cloudbreaker 3 is my more overstable. Now, as you can see or hear, there's a big wind out here right now. This is a big left to right wind on this shot into this open field. You can probably see the leaves going behind me. So we gotta keep that in mind as we're judging the flights of these discs. Pin is straight out there between these two trees, 380. Let's go with our time lapses us first. We're gonna try and just hit them flat and hard, see how they fly. Okay, not a bad first rip. Touch a turn out of the hand, but hardly any. We see it get good straight push before finishing. Definitely showing a lot less overstable than that Proto run out of the hand. We do have to remember the wind left to right is probably keeping it out a little bit more, but have to say, pretty happy with that. Let's pull the red one, see if we can't duplicate that flight. Yeah, pretty flat, touch nose up, I do have to say, but really great flight. Really great flight. I'd be very happy with that. I'm curious to see how that stability compares, especially to my Swirly S-Line DD3, which for me, in this kind of wind, I would expect to be a little flippy. Let's give this bad boy a toss. Yeah, there it is. You can see it going right. Just holds that line for so long and then finally hooks up. I mean, it's hard to tell from here, but if I had to guess, I'd say that's like 50 feet further than those time lapses, just because it didn't dunk as fast. We'll see when we get up there. Let's toss our Cloudbreaker, see how similar this is. Oh, I put it low. You can see it's still hooking up though. Skipping. Yeah, more similar probably in stability to those time lapses, it looks like. But I put that so low, hard to judge. But I'm gonna use U-Discs to get some distances on those shots so you can see how they would compare to your arm speed compared to my arm speed. Let's go out in the field. So down on the right side of the basket, you can see the basket just up behind me approaching our Swirly S-Line DD3. This is the one that went the furthest. U-Disc is showing this right now at right around 418. Not sure if you can see that or not. We have to remember it's a little deceptive because this is a downhill shot. So 418 on the Swirly S-Line. Now let's walk up past the basket. Both time lapses, I can see them up here in the grass, are not far apart from each other. I would say they're about 5 feet apart from each other and just shy of pin high. But because we are coming back up to the high side of the basket, our distance is definitely dropping. So both of our time lapses right here, you can see them there, and we're showing 360 right here on U-Disc, 360. So quite a bit less distance. We're on the high side of the basket now, and that makes sense. They didn't turn quite as much. And then that Cloudbreaker is even further up the hill that way. We can walk up to that. Now, what's interesting about these two time lapses is the feel in the hand is a little bit different than the Proto, partly because these are a little domey. You've probably heard other reviewers, if you've watched other videos, talk about this. They do feel a little more full in the hand, but actually, I kind of like that domey feel. Here we are at the Cloudbreaker 3, and we're showing 322. So once again, the shortest of all of them, but I did put that one low out of the hand. So hopefully that gives you an idea. Now remember, downhill with a big left to right wind, my arm speed out here today, so you can compare it to your arm speed and see how these discs might fly for you. So we're now standing on a tee pad of hole 2, which just plays the opposite way up the same fairway. So we can throw in the exact opposite wind just to get a little more well-rounded perspective on how these discs fly. Now this shot is also a little uphill. We're not actually gonna be throwing to the basket. That's only 300 feet. We're gonna be throwing off to the right here just so we can see the full flight. Once again, time lapses up first. Let's see what kind of distance we can get. So now that we're standing here, we have a right to left wind, which is gonna be pushing our discs more on hyzer. So we're gonna have to try and hit that angle, maybe a little flatter or even on the turnover. Orange time lapse up first. Oh, just nose up on hyzer the whole way. Actually, that might just go towards the pin. Not at all what I was trying to do. Horrible, horrible shot on that one. Good thing we have 2 of these bad boys. Let's redeem it with the red one. My goodness, that was bad. We're trying to throw that way and flat. Okay, a little bit better. You do see more stability right away. That one didn't come out with any anhyzer at all. Flat to hyzer, holds it and goes the whole way. So Let's see swirly S-line. This will be the true test, because if we can get this guy to fly flat or to flip it all, then we know stability of those time lapses is more than we're thinking versus just being the wind. I mean, okay, a lot of Anheuser out of the hand. Does hold it for a while. Touch nose up too, you can tell just by how it was kind of floaty. That's way up the hill. I mean, my inconsistency in form is really hurting an honest review of these discs, just to be transparent. Let's go with the Cloud Breaker, and then we'll talk about that form piece. Yeah, much more similar to that time lapse. Flat to hyzer the whole way. Once again, we will get distances on these. I'm not expecting those have gone very far at all. So probably gonna be embarrassed to share these distances online, but that's part of the process. Let's get after it. So let's talk a little bit about these form changes. There are kind of three big things I'm focused on changing right now. One is the wrist curl, two is the brace, and three is the timing. I'll throw up some slow-mos in my form right now. You'll see I tend to way overextend my wrist at the back of the reach back, and it really messes up my timing, my grip, everything. So I'm trying to keep that wrist curled. I didn't do a great job on these shots, but it's a work in progress. Two is the brace. Historically, I have no brace. It's something I'm not very good at, which the timing goes hand in hand in this. Generally, I'm pulling through before my front foot has touched the ground, and I don't really have much of a brace at all. I just stiff arm the disc and kind of fall forward. So a mental cue for me, I'm really working on trying to feel my front foot hit the ground before I start coming on that pull through. Now, on the timing, if I can get that fixed, I'm hoping that will also fix my brace, and then I'm trying to not stagger my feet quite as much in that last step as well. All of this, I think in the long term will help me be a much better player, but in the short term is causing havoc with my form and my throw and my results. So we've arrived at our S-Line DD3. This is the one we turned way over. We're almost back up by hole one's T-pad, so not a great shot. We're showing 320 here on U-Disc, way up the hill. Now, as we walk back down the hill towards hole two's basket and back more towards where we were actually trying to throw, we're gonna come up on our first time lapse here, which is the red one with the blue rim. U-Disc is sitting right now right around 305. Here we are right on top of that time lapse, 306. Okay, not as awful as I was expecting for being uphill with an unhelpful wind, but there you go. And now just a little farther down, not far from that, is our Cloud Breaker 3. Now we're dropping into the 200s. Here we are at the Cloud Breaker, we're showing 297. So really not that far off from that time lapse, but you know, in the 200s, doesn't feel great. Let's keep going. Here we go. Took me a sec to find this orange time lapse. It's actually almost pin high with hole two's basket, which is not what we were trying to do, but nonetheless, on U-Disc, we're at 301 feet. So all of these shots are actually going right around the same distance. They just happen to be sprayed pretty far right to left. Now let's get some forehands. Of course, this is my ace hole from the Onyx Vulture video. Back behind those trees is where we're going. It's about 270 to the pin, but we're just gonna put them out here on the left side. We are throwing into a straight headwind now, so keep that in mind. Once again though, time lapses up first on the forehand. Oh, turned it right over into the ground. Just did not commit to that, got no wrist action. That's how not to throw a forehand. I will say, ironic time to say this after a horrible shot, these time lapses feel pretty good on the forehand, to my hands at least. Like, I just like the way they sit in there. It feels pretty nice. So let's see if we can't actually show that with a much better result here. Oh, that's a little better. That's a little better. Great distance on that forehand. Really not much turn, a little nose up. So let's compare that now to our DD3s, but happy with that result. Let's go with our S-Line, see what kind of turn we get out of this in the headwind. A lot. Does it fight back? Started to pan out, but not really. I mean, once again, didn't put a ton on it, and it wasn't as nose up, but my goodness. Cloud Breaker 3. Let's see what we got. I expect a similar flight to that time lapse. I mean, you see it just, it might have even gone so high it's out of the frame of the camera. Just so nose up, stalls and drops. All right, Now let's play one actual hole out here just to see how these do in a real life scenario. Hole 4, place 376 into the woods. Should give us enough distance to really test the flight and see if we can be accurate with them as well. We gotta get them on a little anhyzer to get them to hook up into the woods if we can get it that far. We are back to our right to left wind on these shots, so we're gonna have to get them over a little more maybe than we think. Let's see how we do time lapse up first. That's good anhyzer out of the hand. I just don't think I got enough on it. I think it's short. Skip right up there though. All right, it's still a good shot. It just didn't quite have the distance. I'm happy with the angle. It wasn't a clean release though. You could maybe see the wobble out of the hand. Let's try with our red time lapse. See if we can't replicate the angle, but get a better, more powerful release. Okay, nope. That one is a little nose up and came out flat and low into the woods. So not the best showing. Let's go with the DD3 with our swirly S line up first. This one we can probably just hit flat because it's got a little more turn to it. Yeah, just push. Keep going for me. All right, actually that's right around that first time lapse, but that was just kind of a dead straight flight. Little nose up once again. Now the Cloudbreaker 3, let's try and get over on it. If I can throw an anhyzer to save my life, here we go. Well, huge Sky Annie, but nose up, not much on it, and drop it short. Let's go finish out the hole, see what we can't make from those shots. Okay, so here's that first time lapse in the woods. I think we have a nice little step out, flex forehand just to get up through that gap, try and punch through the left side of this. Off that tree, yes, now hook up in there. Oh, wonderful. Caught a good branch up there. I think that leaves us at like 15 feet. A little farther forward, here we have the Cloudbreaker 3. We're just gonna put a berg up there, something nice and easy on hyzer through this right side gap, and just get it to hook up and sit right under the basket, hopefully. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful, 2 for 2 on the upshots. Here's our other time lapse and our swirly DD3. You can see the basket as well. So we got a couple jump putts for eagle. Let's see how we can't do. That's not gonna quite do it. Not bad height, just off to the left. See if we can make the adjustment. That could be it. Oh, on line, just short the whole way. So 4 tap-in pars. Well, I guess it technically plays as a par 4, even though it's a soft par 4. So 4 tap-in birdies. We'll take that result. Let's talk about what I actually think about the time lapse. So as we tap these couple discs in, let's talk about, great. Let's talk about what we think about the time lapse in compared to the DD3. Now, I have to say, right off the bat, I am so much more happy with this version of the time lapse, with the stock run, than I was with the Proto run. And I think pretty much everybody who has seen review this disc or throw this disc really shares that sentiment. That Proto run was just so ridiculously overstable. And Simon himself talked about this. It really was unusable for a player like me, for an amateur. Now, this stock run, much more usable, flies much more similar to a stable to overstable run of Destroyer. And I actually love the way it feels. I love the way it looks. I like the dome that it has. Overall, it's a really awesome disc that I'm very happy with. So the big question for me is, does it make the bag? Will it kick out the DD3? And I have to say, for as much as I love this disc, the answer right now is still no, largely because of this one right here, the swirly S line, which is just more understable than either of these time lapses. And right now for my arm speed and for my form, I need that to get max distance. I think as my form hopefully improves, as my arm speed increases as I can throw further, these might be the first discs in my bag if this gets too understable, too flippy for me. But right now, I just can't get a ton of distance out of these. 360 is about as far as I could push them, which still isn't horrible, but I can get this 380 to 400 pretty consistently. And for me, I just need that S line to get the distance. So love the disc, love the way they feel. I will say, you know, if I wasn't trying to focus on mold minimalization, and I'm really not sure what I think about that, jury's still out. So if you have an opinion, let me know in the comments below. One of these time lapses might replace this Cloudbreaker for me. This has the stability that it's a headwind or utility disc, which is really similar to what these guys would be, because 9 times out of 10, I'm throwing this one to get max distance. But I think I actually like the way the time lapse feels in the hand a little bit more. Is that true? it kind of is. Maybe I'm just falling for the hype, but it just looks so cool. It feels great in the hand. It flies very similar to this Cloudbreaker 3 for me, so maybe. As always, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to. It helps me out a lot. My name is Andrew Wood. The journey is the destination. Peace.